She begged me to admit I was cheating, so I let her confess first. I wasn't supposed to be home for another 6 days. The ship docked early, weather held, and the mission wrapped ahead of schedule, so command gave us the green light to return. Most of the guys called ahead to their families, sent texts, posted on social media. I didn't. I wanted it to be a surprise. It felt right. Romantic. We hadn't seen each other in nearly 5 months, and I figured if there was ever a time to pull off the perfect homecoming, it was now. I could already see her face in my mind. Eyes wide, mouth dropping open, maybe even tears. She'd fling herself into my arms, tell me how much she missed me. We'd laugh, maybe cry. That kind of moment you remember for the rest of your life. At least, that's what I thought I was heading toward. I had a little overnight bag slung over my shoulder, fresh off the base. Still had my ID around my neck, boots not even dusty from the pier. I was exhausted in the way only sailors understand, months of constant motion followed by the surreal stillness of land under your feet. But my heart was pounding like I'd just run 10 miles. Not from fatigue, from anticipation, from love. I had planned to grab flowers from the little corner shop down the road from our house. She always loved those deep burgundy lilies they carried. Then I figured I'd head home, shower, set the table, light a candle, be waiting for her when she walked through the door. But about 15 minutes away from the house, I changed my mind. I thought, what if I picked her up from work instead? What if the surprise started even earlier? I knew her schedule by heart, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, in that clean glass building off Wilmont and 7th. I could swing by, wait in the lot across the street, then step out just as she exited the doors. It would be a perfect little movie moment. So I did just that. I parked across the road, engine off, letting the warmth of the afternoon sun melt through the windshield while I scanned the crowd for her familiar walk. I wasn't even there 5 minutes when the doors opened and there she was, my wife. My heartbeat slowed for a second when I saw her. She looked beautiful. Same coat I'd seen in the last photo she'd sent me, hair curled just slightly at the ends the way she always did on Fridays. But she wasn't alone. There was a man waiting on the sidewalk. Not a coworker waiting in line for the light. Not someone walking by casually. No, he was standing still, clearly waiting just for her. Tall, maybe 6 foot or so, buttonwool coat, scarf, well-groomed, like someone who didn't just dress well but dressed with intention. She saw him and smiled in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. It wasn't casual. It wasn't a smile that said, "Oh, hey." It was soft, familiar, intimate. And then she walked right up and wrapped her arms around him. Not a short, stiff hug like you'd give a friend or colleague, not even a slightly too friendly embrace. This one had length, warmth, intention. His hands settled on her waist. Her head rested lightly on his shoulder for a beat too long. I froze. Every part of me wanted to believe there was some explanation. I sat up straighter in the driver's seat, maybe blinked too many times trying to convince myself I was misreading what I saw. I looked around for cameras, like I was being pranked. But this wasn't a joke. This was real. The man opened the passenger door for her like he'd done it before. Like this was routine. She got in without hesitation. He rounded the hood and slid behind the wheel, and then they drove off together. I didn't even think. I just started the car and followed. I kept 2 or 3 vehicles behind, close enough to track but not enough to draw attention. My hands gripped the wheel tighter with every block. I wasn't even sure where they were going, but some part of me already knew. It wasn't a coffee stop or a grocery run. It wasn't an emergency pickup. This was something planned, something personal, something I was never supposed to see. They took a left off the main road and pulled into a parking lot beside a small restaurant I'd never noticed before. Low lights, brick exterior, white tablecloths visible through the window. Upscale. Private. The kind of place you go to be alone with someone. He parked, stepped out first, walked around to open her door again. She touched his hand as she stepped out. Just for a moment, but it was enough. They walked inside together, and I coasted into a space across the street, cutting the engine again. There were no dramatic thoughts racing through my head at that moment. Just silence. Emptiness. Like all the sound in the world had been sucked away. I sat there for what must have been over an hour. Watching. Waiting. Dying a little with every minute that passed. Through the window, I could see them talking, smiling, leaning in close. The way she tilted her head, the way she rested her hand on her chin while he spoke. I'd seen that look before. She used to give it to me. They shared a bottle of wine. He poured it with one hand, like a practiced move. She laughed at something he said, reached across the table to touch his wrist. That was the moment it stopped feeling like a mistake and started feeling like confirmation. This wasn't new. This wasn't curiosity or a slip-up. This was a pattern, a rhythm, a bond. And I was the one in the shadows watching it unfold like some ghost from a life that didn't belong to me anymore. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't get out of the car. I just sat there, gripping the wheel with white knuckles, heartbreaking in perfect silence. She never looked toward the window, never looked back. The sun had dipped low by the time they stood up from the table. I don't even remember how long I'd been there by then. Could have been an hour, maybe 2, but I'd gone numb. My hands had stopped shaking, not because the pain went away, but because it had dug so deep into my chest it didn't need to tremble anymore. It just settled in like it belonged there. The restaurant door opened and there they were again, walking out slowly, side by side, no rush, no hesitation. She looked comfortable, radiant even, like someone walking out of a date she didn't want to end. She turned to him on the sidewalk, and he said something that made her laugh. Her head tilted back just a bit. That laugh, it used to be mine. He reached into his coat pocket, handed her something small, maybe a receipt, maybe a note. I couldn't tell from where I sat. She took it with both hands like it was a gift. They hugged again. Not like before. This one was longer, tighter. She clung to him like they had history, like they had a future. He kissed her on the cheek, and I swear she leaned into it. She lingered there after he pulled away, standing with her eyes closed for just a second longer than she should have. Then she turned and walked to her car parked behind his. My heart cracked even more watching her unlock the door like she'd done it 100 times before. Like this was normal. Like she'd done nothing wrong. She got in and drove off, never once looking in my direction. Never once thinking someone might have seen. That was my moment. That was the window. I could have jumped out of the car. I could have called her name, confronted her in the parking lot, demanded answers, made a scene. I could have stood in the middle of that sidewalk and screamed every betrayal that was boiling in my throat. But I didn't. I couldn't. My body wouldn't move. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else, my arms like dead weight draped over the steering wheel. I just sat there and watched her drive away like a coward. Or maybe not a coward, maybe just a man shattered too cleanly to make noise. I wasn't thinking straight. My brain had turned into static. The kind of silence where you're fully awake but nothing connects. I just stared at the road, the taillights of her car shrinking in the distance until they disappeared around the bend. She was gone, and the night swallowed what was left of me. I didn't start the engine right away. I didn't even look at my phone. I just sat there in the dim light of the dashboard, staring at nothing. At some point, I realized I hadn't taken a breath in almost a minute. I sucked in air like I'd just come up from underwater. I remember gripping the keys so hard they left marks in my palm. That sudden clarity, that sharp little moment where you ask yourself, what the hell just happened? I couldn't go home. There was no version of that night where I could walk through our front door and pretend I hadn't just watched the woman I loved laugh and drink and smile with another man. I didn't want to see our wedding photos on the wall. I didn't want to look at the couch and imagine her sitting there texting him. I didn't want to stand in the kitchen and wonder if she washed his scent off her hands before making dinner the night before. I started the engine. Drove. No direction. No music. No GPS. Just motion. Block after block, turning at random, watching streetlights blur past like the inside of a snow globe. I don't even know how I stayed on the road. I wasn't crying. Not yet. My body was too stunned to do something as human as cry. I think I was waiting to wake up. I actually remember saying out loud, "This isn't real." The sound of my own voice startled me. It felt wrong in the car. Felt out of place. Like I'd broken some spell. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even have a change of clothes. Just my sea bag, a dying phone, and a hollow space inside my chest where her name used to echo. I passed 3 exits I could have taken home. Passed the turnoff for my mother's place. Thought about calling my brother, but what would I say? "Hey, I'm back early from sea and caught my wife cuddling a stranger over risotto?" No, I didn't want to explain it. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted silence. Emptiness. I pulled into a gas station somewhere outside city limits and sat in the lot with the engine running. I must have looked like a ghost, still in uniform, eyes blank, knuckles white against the wheel. The cashier looked out the window at me twice. Maybe he thought I was drunk. Or dangerous. Maybe I was. I don't even remember buying anything. I just drove away again. And then, like some part of me just gave up trying to think, I found myself in front of my buddy Mason's place. We'd served together back in the day. Still close. He was the kind of guy who never asked questions until you were ready to answer. I parked on the street. sat for 10 more minutes. Then I dragged myself to his door and knocked. He opened it, saw my face, and didn't say a word. Just stepped aside and let me in. That was the first time I felt safe since seeing her walk out of that building. The moment I crossed the threshold into his living room, something broke. I didn't cry, not yet, but something inside me cracked just loud enough to hear. Mason offered me the couch. I dropped my bag and collapsed into it like a man 40 years older than I was. He handed me a beer. Didn't ask why I was there. Didn't mention the early return. Just sat on the other end of the room in silence. Let me be broken. That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours. Never turned on the TV. Never plugged in my phone. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just existed in that dead, echoing space where a life used to be. The days after that night bled together into one long blur of nothing. I stayed on Mason's couch, sleeping in the same clothes I arrived in, phone dead somewhere in my bag, untouched. I didn't eat much. Didn't talk. He'd go to work in the mornings and I'd just sit there, in that small, dim living room, staring at a blank TV screen or watching the dust spin in a shaft of sunlight through the blinds. I didn't cry. That was the strangest part. You'd think after watching your whole life fall apart from the front seat of a parked car, there'd be sobbing, fists through walls, something. But all I felt was quiet. A hollow pressure behind the eyes that never turned into tears. I didn't want to talk about it. Not with Mason. Not with anyone. I think he knew that. He never pushed. Just asked every once in a while if I was hungry or if I needed anything, and when I'd shake my head, he'd just nod and leave me alone. And I needed that. I needed the silence. I needed the stillness. I needed the time to sit in what had happened and just fall apart. Every hour that passed was like a slow burn. I replayed it all, how she touched that guy's arm, how she laughed, how natural it all looked. Not guilty. Not secretive. Like she was with someone she belonged to. That haunted me more than anything else. It wasn't the betrayal itself, it was how easy it was for her. Like our marriage had already ended for her, and I just hadn't gotten the memo. One night, maybe 3 or 4 days into it, I found myself in the shower, water scalding hot, leaning against the tile with my forehead pressed to the wall. My whole body felt like it was made of lead. And out of nowhere, I asked myself something I hadn't dared think since the moment I saw her walk out of that restaurant. What if I didn't tell her I knew? What if I just didn't come back the way I left? What if, instead of walking through the door as the heartbroken husband, I came back colder? Not angry. Not accusatory. Just distant. Like I had someone else now. Someone who had my attention. Someone who made me forget. The idea didn't even feel like a plan. It was more like a defense mechanism. A shield I could wear, just long enough to get through the nights. I didn't know if it was revenge. Maybe it was. Or maybe it was the only way I could come home without begging her to tell me it wasn't real. Without falling to my knees the second I smelled her perfume. I wasn't ready to be the victim anymore. I didn't want her pity. I didn't want her explanations. I just wanted to make her irrelevant. At least, that's what I told myself. I didn't tell Mason. He didn't need to know what was going on in my head. He just kept the fridge stocked and the couch clear, and that was enough. The next morning, I went out alone for the first time in almost a week. Drove to a strip mall, bought some clean clothes, nothing flashy, just jeans, shirts that actually fit me, cologne I'd never worn before. I got a haircut from a barber I'd never used. Took the kind of long look in the mirror that makes you wonder if the man staring back is someone you've even met before. He looked unfamiliar, sharper, colder. Maybe that was good. I stopped at a gas station on the way back to Mason's place, bought a burner phone, stuck it in my glove box. Didn't even know why. Maybe I just liked the idea of her not knowing everything anymore. When I got back, Mason was on the couch flipping through channels. He looked up when he saw me, cleaned up, changed, sober in a way I hadn't looked since I landed. He just raised his eyebrows and said, "You going home?" I nodded. "Yeah, think it's time." "You sure?" I hesitated. "Not really. But I'm done hiding." That was the truth. I was done hiding. From her, from the pain, from myself. I didn't know what I was walking back into. I didn't know how I'd react the moment I saw her again. But I knew this. I wasn't walking back in the same man she said goodbye to 5 months ago. The one who wrote her letters. The one who saved pictures of her in his locker. The one who dreamed of coming home to her face. That man died somewhere in that parking lot. And whatever was left of me, it wasn't soft anymore. I packed my things quietly. Mason didn't say much, just gave me a nod, a pat on the back. "You need anything, you call." "I will." I meant it. I owed him more than I could ever repay. When I pulled into our driveway, nothing had changed. Same welcome mat. Same potted plant she always forgot to water. Same little crack in the siding I never got around to fixing. It all looked so normal, so intact. But I wasn't. I stepped out of the car, grabbed my bag, and walked up to the door like it was just another day coming home. But in my head, I was already gone. I just didn't know where I was going yet. The key still worked. That was the first surprise. I hadn't texted her, hadn't called, hadn't warned her I was coming back. No, hey, I'm on my way. No, miss you, be home soon. Just silence. And when the front door clicked open, it sounded louder than it should have, like the whole house had been holding its breath. It was late afternoon. The sun slanted through the blinds, striping the living room in orange and gold. Same furniture. Same faint scent of vanilla candles she always lit in the evenings. Same framed photos, vacations, anniversaries. The one from our third year where she was laughing at something I'd said just before the picture snapped. I dropped my bag just inside the door and stood there for a second, listening. No sound. She wasn't home yet. That was good. I needed a minute. I walked through the house like I was trespassing. Every room looked untouched, perfectly preserved, like she'd frozen it in place while I was gone. Our bedroom was spotless. Too spotless. The bed made tighter than usual. One pillow on my side missing. Her nightstand had a new book on it. Romance novel. Not her usual genre. I noticed those things. I always did. And now everything I noticed felt like a test I didn't sign up for. I took a long shower. Shaved. Changed into the new clothes I'd bought that morning. Nothing flashy, just different. Different cologne too. Nothing strong. Just enough that she'd smell it if she got close. I didn't know why I cared. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I just wanted to see what she noticed. Or how fast. By the time she got home, I was sitting at the kitchen table with a beer in my phone, scrolling through nothing in particular, just letting time pass. The door opened, and I heard her keys hit the bowl by the front mirror, same routine as always. Then came the sound of heels pausing. She must have seen my bag in the hallway. Her voice was careful. You're home. I looked up, gave a half smile. Yeah, that's all. No hug. No, I missed you. Just that one-word answer like I was coming back from the store, not 5 months at sea. Her face changed immediately. She tried to hide it, smiling too fast, walking over like she wasn't scrambling in her head. She wrapped her arms around me and held tight, longer than necessary, and I let her. But I didn't hold her back. Not really. When she pulled away, she searched my face like she was trying to find a map back to where we left off. You didn't say you were coming home early. I shrugged. Plans changed. You okay? Yeah. But I wasn't. And the fact that I didn't offer anything more set off alarms in her expression. Over the next couple days, I said just enough to pass as functional. Asked how work was. Helped clean the yard. Took the trash out. But my eyes didn't linger. My hands didn't reach for her. My kisses, when they happened, were quick, dry, forgettable. She noticed. On day 2, I caught her watching me from the hallway as I checked my phone in the dark. She didn't say anything, but I could feel the questions radiating off her like heat. On day 3, she offered to cook my favorite dinner. I said I wasn't hungry, told her I had errands to run. Came back 2 hours later with a fresh shirt and a receipt I left face up on the counter. Coffee for 2. She didn't mention it, but I saw her eyes flick to it when she walked by. I left my phone face down more than usual. Started locking it. Set a new passcode. When she asked why, I said, just being careful. I'd never locked it before. She knew that. I started coming home later than I had to. Showered at odd times. Left vague text replies when she asked where I was. Just out. Just tired. Just stuff. It didn't take long for the shift to consume her. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse her of anything. I didn't need to. All I did was stop being predictable. Stop being the version of me she could control. She tried everything. Sweetness. Guilt. Silence. On the 5th night, she waited up. I came in after midnight. She was sitting on the couch in her robe, legs crossed, staring at the door like she'd been rehearsing the moment all evening. Where were you? She asked. Calm. But the kind of calm that feels like someone gripping the edge of a table so hard their knuckles turn white. I shrugged. Out. Out where? I kicked off my shoes. I don't think that's your business anymore. Her face changed. Like I'd slapped her. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. Just walked past her into the kitchen, opened the fridge like I'd taken the ground out from under her. She followed. Are you seeing someone? I didn't look up. Just said, why are you asking? Because you're acting different. You're hiding your phone. You disappear. You don't even look at me anymore. I met her eyes then. Quiet. Steady. Maybe I just got used to being alone. That line broke something in her. I saw it. Her whole body tensed, then deflated like a slow leak in a tire. Tell me the truth, she said, voice cracking. If there's someone else, just tell me. I didn't say anything. Not yes. Not no. I just turned and walked down the hall. Left her there standing in the kitchen, barefoot and unraveling. And still, I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't lied. I hadn't cheated. But the silence I brought home was louder than any proof. And I knew, deep down, it was only a matter of time before she broke it herself. The house got quieter by the day, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that creaked, that pressed in from the walls and made the air heavy. She stopped asking questions directly, but I could feel them anyway, in the way she paused before speaking, in the way she watched me when she thought I wasn't looking. There were no more offers for dinner, no soft touches, just hovering, hesitation, a constant tension behind her eyes like a storm circling but not landing. I didn't change anything. I didn't escalate. I still came and went without explanations. Still locked my phone. Still wore cologne that didn't belong to any memory we'd ever shared. I stopped sleeping in the bed some nights. Said the couch helped my back. That lie must have gutted her more than any truth. And yet, I never raised my voice. I didn't throw accusations. I didn't even hint that I knew. I just let time do what it does best, expose everything people think they can bury. One evening, the sky outside turned gray early. The kind of evening where the light fades fast and the whole house feels dim no matter how many lamps you turn on. I was in the bedroom, scrolling nothing on my phone, half expecting another silent night. But then I heard her. Footsteps. Fast. Nervous. She opened the door without knocking. Her eyes were wild. Red. She'd been crying. She stood there for a second like she didn't know where to begin, and then she exploded. Not with anger. With desperation. All of it came out in a rush. The accusations. The pain. The fear. I know something's going on, she said. I know you're hiding something. You're never home. You don't talk to me. You look at me like I'm not even there. You're not the same person anymore. I didn't respond. Just met her eyes. Calm. Still. That silence only made her unravel faster. She paced. Rambling. If there's someone else, just say it. I can handle the truth. I just need to know. I need to know if I'm crazy or not. And then, as if it slipped out before she could stop it, she said the words. The words I never thought I'd hear her say out loud. Because if you are, then I deserve it. I deserve it after what I did. I know I do. I didn't move. But inside, everything in me stilled. Her voice cracked. She looked at the floor. I didn't mean for it to happen. It wasn't planned. It just happened. She was spiraling now. It was only a few times. He was just there, and I was lonely, and everything between us felt so routine. And I told myself you'd understand. That it wouldn't matter. That it was just temporary. That I still loved you. Still loved me. Like that fixed it. Like those 3 words patched bullet holes. I didn't react. And that silence, it gutted her more than anything I could have said. She took a step closer. Say something. Please. Scream at me. Hate me. Just don't. Don't act like you don't care. But I couldn't. I'd felt it all already. The night I sat in that car watching her smile at someone else, I felt every emotion there was to feel. After that, all that was left in me was silence. I glanced at my phone lying face down beside me on the bed, screen still recording. She had no idea. I hadn't planned it that way, not exactly. I just started the app when I saw the look in her eyes before she came in. Something told me this was it. That this was the moment she'd fold. And I was right. I ended it, she added suddenly. It didn't mean anything. It was a mistake. I've been sick over it. That's why I've been different. That's why I've been trying. I thought if I could just fix things before you noticed. She trailed off. Realized what she'd just said. Before I noticed. The guilt caught up to her then. It showed in the way she slumped, hands limp at her sides. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered. But I did. I watched her. And for the first time in weeks, I saw her for who she really was. Not just a woman who cheated, but someone who lied to herself long before she ever lied to me. She waited for me to say something. Anything. But I just reached for my phone, ended the recording quietly, and stood up. She flinched like she thought I might leave that second. But I didn't. I walked past her. Out the door. Into the kitchen. and left her standing there with everything she tried so hard to keep hidden now hanging in the air like a rotten scent no window could fix. She broke the silence. "What are you doing?" "Getting water," I said. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just dismantled what was left of our marriage. And I meant it. I wasn't ready to respond. Not yet. I needed time. I needed distance. I needed that file on my phone to exist. For me. For proof. For whatever came next. I didn't sleep in our bed that night. I slept in the guest room with the door locked and my phone charging next to me, still holding her voice, still saved like undeniable evidence. The thing about the truth is, it doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives in tears and shaking hands and a voice that can't stop justifying the worst parts of itself. And when it finally shows up, you don't even feel triumphant. You just feel empty. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. The house was still. The kind of stillness that comes after a storm, unnatural, expectant. I lay there for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling in the guest room, phone still on the nightstand, the file still saved, untouched since the moment she poured everything out. I didn't replay it. I didn't need to. Her voice had been echoing in my head all night anyway. The way she said she deserved it. The way she confessed like it was some act of bravery. Like she was noble for getting there first, even though I'd been watching the truth unravel before her mouth ever opened. I got up. Packed slow. Deliberate. I didn't leave a note. Didn't slam a door. I just moved through the house like a shadow. Took what was mine, some clothes, my phone, wallet, a few personal things I'd left behind before the deployment. That was all. I left my wedding band on the bathroom sink. Not for drama. Just because it didn't belong on me anymore. I didn't want to wear something that made promises she'd already broken for both of us. She was still asleep when I stepped out. Curled under the blanket on her side of the bed, turned away from the door. I didn't say goodbye. What would have been the point? Her goodbye had happened in some restaurant weeks earlier. I just hadn't heard it yet. I got in the car. Pulled away without looking back. Drove out past the highway, toward a little motel Mason had mentioned once, cheap, anonymous, quiet. Rented a room under a different name. I sat there for a while, in that tiny space with its buzzing light and peeling wallpaper, listening to the nothing. And for the first time since the day I followed her from that parking lot, I felt calm. Not good. Not healed. But calm. Later that morning, around 10:43 a.m., I sent the file. No message. No warning. Just an audio file named Tuesday_night.wave. I sent it to her parents. Her older brother. Her cousin in Florida she always used to brag about being close to. Her best friend. Her maid of honor from our wedding. All the people who once toasted to our future and called me family. I didn't send it out of spite. I sent it because lies rot from the inside, and sometimes, the only way to cleanse something is to let everyone see what it's become. Within 10 minutes, my phone lit up like a struck match. Missed call. Missed call. Voicemail. Text after text. Her name, over and over again. Please talk to me. Please let me explain. Why would you do this? We can fix this. It didn't mean anything. I love you. I turned off notifications. I didn't block her. That would have made it too easy. I just didn't answer. Not once. Not then. Not since. I don't know what she told them after they listened. If she begged. If she lied. If she blamed me. It didn't matter. The recording said everything. Her voice, her words, her guilt. I didn't need to follow up. I didn't need to fight for my reputation. I let her destroy her own. I stayed in that motel for 3 nights. Mason checked in on me. We met for a drink in a dive bar that didn't ask questions. He didn't say much, just slid a beer across the table and said, "Heard the fallout's been nuclear." I nodded. She got what she earned. "You okay?" I paused. Thought about lying. But I didn't. No. But I'm better than I was. That's what healing really is. Not instant peace. Not revenge-fueled satisfaction. Just better than you were. I started looking at apartments the next day. Something small. Simple. New. I wasn't in a rush. Just finally ready to live somewhere that didn't smell like betrayal every time I opened a drawer. I deleted the file eventually. Not out of forgiveness. Just because I didn't want it anymore. I'd already sent it to the people who needed to hear it. Keeping it wouldn't change anything. That chapter was closed. Every once in a while, I still get the occasional message from someone tied to her. A friend of a friend asking if what they heard was true. An old mutual acquaintance saying they're sorry. I never answer. Some things don't need closure. They just need distance. And as for her, I don't know what she's doing now. I don't care. Maybe she's trying to rebuild her story. Maybe she's telling herself I was the villain, that I was cold, that I cheated, that I was never really there for her. Let her. Let her build whatever fiction she needs to survive what she did. But I know the truth. And more importantly, so does everyone else. She begged me to admit I was cheating, so I let her speak first. In her own voice finished the story. She says it only happened because I was gone too much. But does my job really justify what she did?